The purpose of this task is to allow you to experiment further with basic drawing skills and measuring and using the modifying commands. So you're going to be drawing a steel deck, and we're going to be adding some annotative dimensions and putting them into 2 layers. So let's get going. To begin with, we're going to start a new drawing by hitting the Start Drawing button, and that's opened up a brand new tab. So now we need to set up the workspace. So we're going to switch the grid off. We're going to go along, make sure dynamic input is on. We're going to make sure that polar tracking is on and set to 45 and 90. We're going to go to the object snap tracking is on. Object snap is on and set to endpoint and midpoint. And I'm also going to make sure that show annotation objects is on always, and add scales to annotative objects when the annotation scale changes is switched on. Now we're going to be using a scale of 1 to 25, and unfortunately AutoCAD doesn't come out of the box with 1 to 25 as an option, so we're just going to have to add that in now. So we're going to go to Custom, I'm going to go to Add, we're going to call this 1 to 25, and we're going to set the scale properties, really important step, to 1 paper unit equals 25 drawing units. And we can click OK again, and we should now have 1 to 25 in our list. We'll be using that a little bit later. And now we're going to set the precision of our units to 0, because we just want full millimeters to be shown here. And the insertion scale, well, we're not inserting anything, but I like to set that to millimeters too. Click OK, and we're about there. So we're going to do some layer properties. So we open up the layer properties manager, and we're going to create 2 new layers. Let's just expand this out. And we're going to use this little button here with the orange flash, which creates a new layer. So we're going to have one that's called decking. I'm going to leave everything as default, and a new one called dimensions. And I'm going to make this colour blue, just so that you can see the difference in the layers and what's going on here. And when we've done that, I'm going to make the decking the most current. So I'm going to set that active, so that that's the one I'm drawing on. And you can see that's echoed up here, that is now set to be the layer that we're now using. So I can close this down by pressing the layer properties button again and start drawing. So I can see that my steel deck is 2440 millimeters long. So I'm going to pick up the line tool, and I'm going to start to draw a horizontal line that is 2440 millimeters, which is 8 feet long. And then I can come down, and I can see that the next measurement is 18, and I can come down like this and press spacebar to finish. The next measurement is 50, so I'm going to come down 50 and along. And then we have a gap of 85, so I'm going to get the line, I'm going to just hover over that corner, pull down, type in 85, and I now know that I'm drawing 85 away from that corner. I can type in 25, and that's where the bottom of my truss should sit. And that's the framework of my truss section. Okay, so I can see in the drawing that we actually have the first diagonal brace sitting 44 millimeters away from this end here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the line tool, or L-enter, and hover over that corner, pull to the right, and it's now measuring from that corner. I haven't clicked anything yet, and type in 44, and we are now drawing 44 away. It's measured away 44 millimeters. Follow that 45 degrees down, and where they intersect, click done. Pick up the offset tool, and I can see that I should be offsetting by 12. Click, click again, and there's my first brace. I can then use trim. Remember, the first click on your page should be the right one. Right click, and by pressing shift I get extend. So trim, remember, press shift, you get extend, and if you're in extend mode, press shift and you get trim. Okay, brilliant. So that's my first brace in. I can then see that there is a gap of 218 between the top of this corner and the next corner. It's also allowing me to see that there's actually a gap of 48 between the bottom. So if there's a gap of 48, I could mirror this at 24, mirror these two lines. Again, I'm just going to hover over that corner, pull across, type in 24, and the line of symmetry is now in the centre of where they should be sitting. Do I want to erase the source objects? No. And just to be sure, I can get the measuring tool and measure between this point here and this point here, and I can see that is coming in at 218. So this tells me that this is correct. Okay, so the rule in AutoCAD, if you've drawn it once, don't draw it again. So I'm going to select these, and now I'm just going to right click and go to copy selection, and it's asking me for a base point. Now I know that there's a gap of 48 between each section, so I'm just going to zoom in here. If I hover over here and pull across and type in 48, I've now picked those up 48 with a 48mm gap between the cursor and the objects, and now it's just a case of going along and clicking on the end point and copying them across, making sure that I'm getting the cursor on the end of every section. And there they are. Okay, we're nearly done. We just need to put in the end sections where the legs go. So we're just going to pick up the line tool one more time, and I can see that there's a gap of 25mm. So it's the same trick every time really. Hover, pull across, type in 25, and I'm now drawing 25mm away. Done. I can then offset that by 60 and trim this little piece out. Same the other side. So we're going to mirror, and we're going to pick up these two sections, press enter, find the center point and mirror it across, and then we can just use our trim and extend tool to make that look right. And that's our decking finished. Okay, so now we're going to do some annotative dimensions. So I'm going to click on the annotation drop down and go to the square button that has a dimension with a paintbrush in it, and that will open up our dimension style manager, and we're going to create a new dimension style. It will be annotative, and we'll call it annotative dimensions. And we're just going to change a few of these settings, not many, because we'll keep it just as it comes. So we're going to switch on oblique. I'll change the hour size to 2. And the text style, well, let's create an annotative text. So we're going to click new, and let's create one called Arial to Anno. And that's going to be a height of 2, and it's going to be annotative. Apply, set current to close, and just pick that up from here. And the primary units, we just need the full millimeters, and we're done. Click set current, click close. Okay, so we're going to change our layer to dimensions. So we're now drawing on the dimensions layer, and we're going to click on the dimension tool. And the first thing it does is it pops up saying you're about to create an annotative object. Set the annotation scale to the scale at which the annotation is intended to display. So 1 to 1 is fine here because that's what we've drawn it at. So I'm just going to click that out, and we're going to change the scale later, and I'll just show you how annotative works on this drawing. So let's put in then some dimensions. Let's put in this gap here, which is 44. So you can see that it's actually coming very small. It's 2 millimeters. If I click on this scale tool here, you can see if I change this to 1 to 25, you see how that's grown. That is now at 1 to 25 scale. And so the steel deck is now at 1 to 25, but the text and the dimension has remained at 2 millimeters. So it's like we've zoomed in. The text hasn't actually, if we were to print this out, the text hasn't actually changed size. It's an illusion. It's the actual drawing that's changed size. It's got 25 times smaller, so it would fit on the page. Okay, let's put in some more dimensions then. So let's do one that's going to be from here to this point here, 218. And let's just move up this one so that we can read it. Marvellous. Then let's do a new one that's going to be 60. I'm just copying the drawing that we had. Okay, so let's just move these up. Oh, that's good. And then we've got one at 48. One at 218 again. Put in there. And let's just move this fellow across to there. And then we have one for the full length, that's fine. So we can just click on here and drop him down. And then we have one at an angle. So we're going to go to aligned and just click over here straight and put him there and move him down. To there. Let's move that across to this side. That's going to be easy to read. Let's move this down even more. That's good. It's just a case of moving them around until you're happy with how they look. This is a bit messy, I think, so let's just move that down slightly. That's easy to read. And then over here we've just got a set of dimensions which are drawn slightly differently, so I'm just going to show you how to do those. We put the first one in as normal, that's 18, and then move that to this side. That's good. And then we're just going to use a new tool which is actually found under the Annotate tab, and it's called Continue. Click on there, and you can see I'm now drawing from that first one that I drew straight off. So it's just a case now of just clicking down onto every point, spacebar to finish, and then again we just need to dress these, so we just need to select them and move them out where we'd like them. Like this. So that's that one done. And then lastly we need to go to the angular tool and put in this dimension here. just readjust these points, follow it up, and there we are. That's the steel deck task done. Now if I change these scales, these annotative scales, you can see that as I click these, it takes on those different scales. And that is adding those to the annotation scale list because we have this button on, which is add scales to annotation list. Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave this. The only thing that I've not drawn on here is the multi-leader. So maybe you could have a little go at that yourself. See if you can set up and draw that to complete your work.